Things about this institute. This institute was started in the colonial time in the 1940s, to be exact 1945, as a cotton research station that was serving the whole of Africa, even India. This was the home for research for cotton. Until 1972, when it was handed over to the government of Uganda, and then the government introduced other crops, which are food crops, to add on to the cotton. So that work and research went on until 2005, where there was narrow reforms, changes within the organization. And those reforms led to the transfer of cotton to NaCRRI. So we don't have cotton here, but we have a rich cotton history in this institute. Cotton is now in NaCRRI. So we have all the other crops research based here. So we have limited time because we have to finish this by lunch, and there is quite a lot to show. So we'll give a flavor of the work we do. And we're a big team in this institute, about 300 staff. There are many people who are out of the station for official work. We also have, I told you, visitors. They will shall meet the other people as we move out in the field and laboratories. So you'll get to meet the staff. So we've taken note of the expectations and the questions for today. Along the way, I hope my team, you will be able to respond to some of those challenges as we move forward. But also let me say, it is coincidentally that also NaCRRI is conducting training for communication officers. So our communication team is in a meeting in Kampala, and one of the things they're learning on is digital communication today, which is very key. So it is good to have you here. Solomon, I hope you can give me, I see you have a big group, you can give me some of the communicators to be based at NaCRRI. Yeah? So we have a unit here called Uganda Biosciences Information Center, and the purpose is to really to demystify and disseminate research we do to the public. And as you know, some of the things we do can become complicated. Those of you who followed the previous times, the GMO work is one of them. And the GMO was also became controversial. So I hope when you also here, take interest to see how GMO work is done from the laboratory and how it gets to the field. Yeah? But other than GMO, we have other things we do. We do a lot of work now on climate resilience across crops, so that you get climate smart or drought tolerant and insect resistant crops. We do a lot of work on nutritious varieties, how to enhance nutrition in crops. So you'll hear about beans which are enriched with vitamin A, with the zinc and iron. A lot of work here on the root crops program on cassava for vitamin A rich cassava, but also vitamin A rich sweet potato. I hope you'll have a chance to see purple sweet potato. Many people are not saying purple sweet potato, which is rich in anthocyanins, anti-cancer, anti-aging. Yeah? So that work is going on here. On maize, we are doing a lot of work previously on quality protein maize, which is good for feeds, but also human beings. That is protein that our body cannot make. And now we have a lot of work going on zinc-rich maize. Daniel there will tell you. But also, maize is becoming an important crop. Now that my presentation is here, allow me to go through the slides so that I take you through. So as NaCRRI, we just got a new strategic plan. We refreshed our strategic plan. And our vision is now a competitive society supported by dynamic agricultural research innovation system that aims for economic transformation. That is our vision. Yeah? As many of you know, majority of Ugandan population depend on agriculture for income and also for food. So it is important that we address the gaps in farming so that people can be lifted out of poverty. Next. So our work, I've mentioned some of this. We do a lot of work to increase farmers' productivity and also how much they get per unit area. That is the productivity and production. I've talked about the work on nutrition. We're now enhancing our staple crops for increased nutrition, for various micronutrients. And also Ephraim will show you some of the work we do in the nutrition lab. We also support the seed industry. Many of the seed companies you may know and the private seed producers, this is the source of the initial seed and also technical knowledge in seed production. So we have been able to support that industry and the growth. And then also we're a source for a lot of information for traders, processors, farmers, and policymakers around technologies on the crops. And also, in the research front, this institute is respected globally. What we do is global age science, but also a lot of our work here supports some countries in the region and also globally. Yeah? So many people come here to learn and also host international students and researchers. But one of our belief is the human capacity. We do a lot of work on human capacity development. So we work with all universities. Many students come here for training, for internship. And recently we introduced a program on postdoc. Those who have finished PhDs come here to get knowledge, but also experience to transform from school to work. Yeah? That is what we do here. So this is the thrust of our major scope of activities in this institute. Next. So I mentioned to you a number of our mandate crops, and all of them happen to be strategic crop under ADP 3. As you know, from last year, we're implementing the new development plan 3. And the crops here are very critical for agro-industrialization sector. Yeah? So let me start with the beans. The research from this institute, we have released more than 33 bean varieties. And now the productivity of bean is over 1 ton per hectare, and the production is a little over 1 million hectares. And a lot of that is because of the work from this institute and the work with the very many farmer groups who have been trained and produce beans for sale and for food. And also you may wish to know that bean is now a key export crop. We export beans to Italy for canning. There's one variety called Nabe 12C that is being exported to Italy for canning. Yeah? Next. So you see, very colorful. One of the things in Uganda is people like bean colors. Yeah? In the central here, many people learn to go for this bean variety, yellow, and myself. If you go to northern, they like black beans. Yeah? If you go to Masindi area and Midwest, it is mottled beans. Yeah? So we have all the market class beans related to different farmer varieties. And this is really driving productivity. And I mentioned our effort on the zinc and also iron, which is good for young mothers. Yeah? Next. The other thing this institute is known for is rice. I see many of you are young, but for those who have been here for some time, rice used to be only eaten by rich people, but also on rich occasions or weddings. Weddings, Christmas, Eid days, yeah? That's when rice used to be eaten. But we have demystified that through research. Now rice is a common food on the plate. Yeah? And why? Because we have developed varieties that are now adapted to our conditions under upland, under irrigated, but also under lowland conditions. And the driven production of rice Now we're about 65% self-sufficiency. And actually, as I talk now, there's a lot of work going on to develop the National Rice Development Strategy, which is targeting to increase rice production to about 1 million metric tons so that we'll get out of importing rice. Currently, a lot of rice comes from Pakistan and Asian countries and also super from Tanzania. Yeah? So we're doing a lot of work to improve quality, but also competitiveness of own rice. So that's the work going on rice, including supporting the seed system. Next. Maize. Many of you may also wish to know that maize used not to be a key crop in Uganda, but now there's a lot of maize produced and the surplus. And Uganda is the only region, is the only country in the region that produces surplus maize. All the other countries are deficient and import maize from Uganda. So Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, South Sudan, and some countries in Southern Africa, they import maize from Uganda because we're able to produce surplus maize. And a lot of that is because of the research-driven, resilient varieties that are popularly grown, and they're producing high-yielding varieties, yeah? High yield on farmers' field. So that's the work going on maize. So currently, production has reached about 5 million metric tons. In the last 10 years ago, maize production was about 1.5 million metric tons. So you can see in 10 years, production has now gone to 5 billion metric tons. And a lot of that is because of improved varieties from research. As you will see, that are drought tolerant, that are insect and disease resistant. Next. So because of that, maize is now a key export crop for Uganda and Uganda's economy. Actually, it is the number 5 top commodity. After gold, fish, coffee, maize sits up there. Yeah? And it brings in a significant amount of money every year to the economy. So, so the thing that I want to go into, we put effort on maize value addition because the surplus maize, and people only eat maize in the form of posho. And you know, school fees is mainly stabilized by maize and beans because those are the major food crops in schools. So I want to go to other research areas on feed for animal and fish. Cornflakes. Many of you eat cereals in the morning, and a lot of that is imported from South Africa. Yet we have plenty of maize in the country. So that's where I want to go. Maize also is significant for starch. The brewery industry uses a lot of maize in the brewery. Then ethanol as a source. Biofuel, if you go to other countries, maize goes also to biofuel, given now the fuel prices. But here, the attention is still on the food, but we want to venture in those areas. I've talked about our effort on nutrition, but also maize-based nutrition foods. So that's what I want to focus our effort on. Yeah? So this table here is just work we did to show that maize has been increasing over years. And now the national average is about 2.5 metric tons from 1.5 metric tons about 10 years ago. So there's been an increase in production and also productivity. And many of you, if you have gone to Amuru and nowhere, you see large-scale farmers who are coming in also to invest in growing maize. So Daniel there will show you work now we're doing to improve maize standards, because one of the problems of our lack of penetration to international market is maize quality and also aflatoxin, which is causing poor maize quality. So we're doing a lot of work on the aflatoxin control through conventional natural means, but also through biocontrol, a product called Aflasafe. He will show you later when we go to the field next. So these are some of the examples of the popular drought-tolerant varieties. For the last 5 years, our effort has been to release drought tolerance, but also many of you may have had insect called fall armyworm that became a problem in 2016, and it was actually devastating farmers' field. We're doing a lot of work on that effort, and when you go to the field, Michael and Daniel will show you the work on insect resistance. Next. Sweet potato. Sweet potato is another key crop we're doing work on and contributing to economic development. The production has increased. Many people are now eating sweet potato. We're doing two things. One, improving production, improving and nutrition, but also Chris there will tell you there's a lot of work on the seed systems because many people are failing to access improved varieties from research. So we're working to develop a seed system so that farmers can get varieties that are improved from research through a seed system. So this is how a yellow, if you slice it, a yellow, orange, rich sweet potato looks like. Sometimes it can be deep orange than this. You get it deep orange. And also I said when you go to field, you will see purple sweet potato, which is rich in anthocyanin. Yeah? So the aim here is to get a rich menu of food crops so that consumers can be able to eat and good to address malnutrition, but also bring income to the farmers' households, but also to the country. Next. But then one of the things we're also working on is the sweet potato puree, which can be a substitute for wheat for bread. As you know, wheat has become a challenge now because of the war going in Ukraine and Russia. And so the wheat imports have reduced and the prices have increased. But sweet potato and cassava can be a good substitute. Not replace it fully, but a significant portion of heat can be reduced so that you put in wheat. So this is our general achievement, a lot of work on developing varieties that are adapted to our ecology in Uganda. And some of these varieties and crops find their way to neighboring countries, Sudan, Congo, Rwanda, and Kenya. We have done a lot of work to control disease epidemics in crops. A case in point is the cassava mosaic disease. If you go to Carrefour, there are varieties that are very sweet, but they cannot grow elsewhere because they're susceptible to some of those diseases. And for those who are old, you'll wish to know varieties like Bokalasa that were there in the past that have disappeared because of these diseases. So the new varieties have taken account to some of those problems, so they are resistant. And this goes for all the crops, maize, rice, beans, and other crops. Yeah? Water hyacinth is another significant contribution from this institute. We have a national invasive species unit here. It is currently doing a lot of work on Kariba weed. And I think Herbert also, we need to make a stopover so that they see. Through biocontrol, there's an insect that can eat a lot of that water. It doesn't eat other things, but only eats the weed. That's the work we did to control water hyacinth in Lake Victoria. And we're using the same technology now to control Kariba weed. If you go to Lake Albert and Lake Chuga, you'll find the water is covered by that weed. Yeah? And it's affecting fishing and also farmers' livelihood. So we're intervening in that area. I've talked about our work to foster the seed industry by developing their capacity, but also by supplying them with improved competitive varieties through early generation seed. And you may also wish to know, we are developing centers of excellence. Actually, where we are is a center of excellence for cassava, for the region. Yeah? So many people in Eastern African region from Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania come here for knowledge. There was a project called East African, where Chris actually is the team leader. Maybe we'll tell you more about that. Yeah? We have another one for rice called the Rice Regional Research and Training Center, which is also training researchers on rice in Africa who come here for training on rice. So we're building that capacity to become not only a center of excellence in Uganda, but also globally and also internationally. Yeah? Next. So I've mentioned about our work on rice, how it has contributed to rice becoming now a common food crop because of adapted and high-yielding varieties. Yeah? Now our work currently going on is to improve rice for aroma, because we know people like that fragile rice that many of you have eaten super, yeah? That good smell, fragrance. So that's the thing we're trying to improve now and work on, in addition to other problems in the field, yeah? And because of that work, we have reduced importation of rice from many countries, because a lot of rice is now produced locally. But there's a challenge, because currently there's issue of environment. As you know, government has banned now use of wetlands for production, yeah? So I want to do research to see sustainable production under wetlands, so that we can be able to improve production. Next. So I talked about beans. These are the popular varieties. You can see they're very colorful. People like these mottle varieties, the yellow varieties, and the black one. Somehow the white is not popular, but if you go to Europe and other countries, people like white beans, yeah? So we also have work going on that. Next. Cassava. I think Robert there likes to explain. It's good to know. Cassava was introduced in Uganda in 1880s by Kabaka. Kabaka Mutesa is the one who actually introduced cassava to Uganda. And it is spread to other countries, other parts of the country. And now it is a major crop. And now our focus in research is to use cassava not only as a food, but also for the industry. It's now a major part of the brewing industry. Recently, we signed MOU with Uganda breweries and also Nile breweries. So Ngule there is majorly from cassava. Cassava is the major ingredient from Ngule. And also Nile breweries. There's that club, which is the wellness beer from Nile breweries. The major ingredient also is cassava. So currently we're doing a lot of testing for new varieties for better beer. Yeah? So that's the work going on, but also other value addition that Ephraim will show you when we go to the lab. Okay? Next. So there are many products that Ephraim will show you in the lab that we're working on: cassava for ethanol, cassava for starch, cassava for other products, in addition to what's already commercialized for beer. Yeah? So we have many things in the pipeline. We want to now interest private sector to come and take it up, so that cassava's use can be diversified beyond food and now beer to other products, because there's quite a lot of production in the country. Next. So the major problem on cassava is cassava brown streak. We are trying to address that through very many fronts. And when you go to the field, you'll be able to show effort on how we can easily control that disease using new tools and technologies. I don't want to talk much about it, but you'll see it in the field. Okay? Next. So the other thing is seed systems for cassava. People move stakes to plant from one place to another, but in the process they move diseases unknowingly. So we're trying to also do a lot of work through the guidance of the team on the cassava seed system, so that people get better varieties that are produced from good sources under research, supervision, and management, yeah, from seed entrepreneurs. Next. So this is a suite of different sweet potato varieties on the market that you can get it. As I told you, you can see the range of yellow. So this is deep orange. It has more vitamin A compared to like this one here, okay? And this is the white varieties. So the problem with sweet potato is sweet potato weevil. That we're doing a lot of work on. And now, because we're also focusing on the industry, we want to see sweet potato going to the industry. For example, KFC for chips. So to do that, one of the problems we're working on is the shape. You see the problem with sweet potato. The shapes are not uniform. So it becomes difficult to peel if you want to do it by machine. So now we're doing a lot of work and research so that we can produce uniform sweet potato shapes, which can be used in the industry for peeling by machine. Yeah? So that's the research going on here. Unfortunately, the sweet potato team is not here, but the program leader will be able to take us through. They are all in Malawi for potato conference. Yeah? Next, horticulture is another big industry, and we're doing a lot of research on it for vegetables and fruits, which have different diseases. I think many of you know the industry in Soroti, the Teju factory, Teju fruit factory, that is producing a lot of fruits, juices, and the technologies and varieties, they are from here. So we're working to address some of those problems for the industry, including juice, diseases, and the farmers, so that farmers can get better productivity. The work going on in new varieties for tomatoes, but also to address some of the export problems with the horticultural products. Oil palm. I don't know how many of you have gone to Kalangala. It's a major hub for oil palm. How many have gone to Kalangala? You have been there. So I want to encourage you people to visit Kalangala. It is a good tourist site also to get away. Yeah? You'll find the island is covered by mainly this oil palm. And you also wish to know now the price of cooking oil has gone up 3 times. Yeah? And the challenge is because this is also not enough. Yeah? So our work is on number 1, increasing productivity of oil from oil palm. Number 2, that oil palm has a disease that makes the plant topple. It is called Fusarium wilt. So we're doing a lot of work to address that disease. And the third is, this is a tree that takes long before it starts fruiting. So, and also it is a very tall tree. Yeah, you have to be aided by something to harvest it. So we have work going on, number 1, to develop a seed system. Number 2, to introduce short and early maturing varieties that are high yielding, but also resistant to the disease. I hope you'll be able to see the work when we're here. So also contributing to the development of that industry. Number 2, the other thing we're doing is we want to take oil palm outside Kalangala so that it can also grow like here, in other areas in Uganda. So there's a lot of multi-location adaptive trials going on in the different agroecologies in Uganda. And we see promise for oil palm to go to northern Uganda, eastern Uganda, and outside Kalangala. Yeah? So that's the work we're doing on oil palm. And we have a substation in Chige and Kamuli that specializes on citrus, where we do a lot of work. The mango varieties, yeah, also the 5 that are commercially produced, Zile, Tom, Articlins, among others, they're also from this institute. If you go to Nwea, there is a lady there who is doing over 60 hectares of mango, and we're also supporting her to do that. Yeah? Next. So I've mentioned this, the work on oranges, but also mangoes, and how that's contributing to farmers' income, and we'll continue to do work on that. Next. So with that, I hope that gives a flavor of the work we do here on the research, but we do much more than this. So I hope I've also been able to answer some of your questions and expectations. Yes, for those who are in farming and interested, we shall be able to provide information. Where we have seed, we can also give you some seed if you want to request. Yeah? And also, if you need help, we can go to your farm and help you on how to better do it. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Seya. Now there will be a few questions, but could we listen to our briefly?
Okay.
Before we do the question? Team leader, please come and address us.
For the opportunity to visit your sites here, to visit your institution. I bring apologies from my director and her deputy, who couldn't make it here today, but they would have loved to be here with us. So they ask that you will forgive them. I want to thank again your team for for accepting to go open. It's very rare to find organizations to open up with citizens, and they tend to keep their information to themselves. So by you inviting us here, it shows that you are, you want to open up with citizens, and so they are able to know what is happening here. We also want to thank you for promoting agricultural transformation through research. And I also really want to appreciate my colleagues, Solomon Mare, for creating a link between us and NaCRRI. Thank you, Solomon. I want to take you through a brief about GCIC. Probably some of you don't know about us. GCIC was begun in 2016 from the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. It was begun to be the primary contact center between citizens and government because of the gap that was there of agencies not wanting to communicate and engage with citizens. So government felt there was a gap, and that's why they eventually had to create a unit like ours. Our mission is to provide the timely, cost-effective, and data-driven information between government of Uganda and the citizens. We use different channels of communication, the mainstream media, and then the digital platforms that are available. But we also work closely and directly with the Uganda Media Center so that there is a synchronization between us and them. On our team, we have a full-fledged team for production, which is always ready to break down content from different MDAs like this into simple messages that can be communicated in different forms, infographics, images, videos, and translated audios. So we endeavor to break down and simplify content for the wananchi to be able to consume and understand what is happening in government. We currently run a series of products which include the daily content curation by breaking down content every day from government. Again, if we know NaCRRI here has a service that citizens need to access, and it is public information, we break it down and simplify it into forms that citizens understand better. Now that is a daily routine for us at GCIC. We also have a daily media review. Here we scan through the media for important news, news from around government and different agencies. We have a quarterly magazine where we document achievements of different MDAs through a quarter across the whole financial year. This is released at the end of every quarter. We have a citizen baraza, which is conducted weekly. Now this one, we host government communicators to discuss majorly emerging and topical issues that come along the way, along the week. If there is anything topical to discuss, we conduct barazas to engage with the citizens and know what they are thinking. We also have the Presidency magazine, which is released monthly. It's a roundup of news from State House and all activities around the presidency. So if the president launched something anywhere in the country or even outside the country, we bring that story together. We bring all stories together that happened in a month, and we release it as a magazine. We also have, we recently developed a government structure, a government directory, which is a repository of all mandates and addresses to different MDAs. We are, our call center, our toll-free call center is currently under maintenance. It is not working for now, but it's something we are working on. But it's a channel that we can use as well to reach out to citizens. We also have citizen outreach programs where we go now out to the wananchi and we reach out to them, we listen to them and bring their ideas back to government, and we advise these respective agencies for their action, probably where necessary. By the end of this tour, as a person, I'm sure we are going to have learned a lot. Personally, I will have to learn a lot. From your presentation already, I have learned so much. For example, some of my take home is that, I didn't know beans, we export beans to Italy. This is amazing. And I'm sure there are so many other people who don't know about this. So this is information that we can relate to citizens, and they get to know, they get to embrace what kind of research we do here. You mentioned something that when I reflected back, I realized that I'm not so young. You mentioned that a long time ago, rice would only be eaten by the rich people and on special occasions. And when I reflect back in the village, for you to eat rice, it would be either a party and a big party, or it would be Christmas. So, and by now, today, you find people throwing away rice. People cook so much and they throw away because there is plenty. And you find it in every household. It's one of the cheapest food that you can cook. So it's something I learned today. I learned also that maize is a key commodity, a key export commodity. So there is so much we are yet to learn. And again, cassava, the controversial cassava. So there is so much that we are going to learn. Personally, I would also want to learn why people are scared of GMOs. There was a controversial bill some time back. I think it along the way, I don't know, but it was really so controversial. And many people ask questions, why, if it's a good thing and, NaCRRI is doing such a research, why do people want to run away from it? I agree that, and most of my colleagues, or all of them, agree that NaCRRI has really improved the lives of Ugandans through research, to curb a lot of challenges, including food insecurity. So once again, Director, we are happy that we are here today, and we are happy that you accepted for us to come here and capture a lot of content, which we are going to use to communicate to our citizens, our audiences through different channels, and yeah. So I hope my team should feel at home, like you mentioned earlier. So there is a lot that we are going to learn today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so in terms of, so you guys remember about cross-pollination, those things you studied when you're in, I don't know whether you're biologists.
Some are biologists, some are...
Are you biologists? Because some of you're not biologists. Eh? Some of you don't remember these things. But when they were telling you bees moving pollen from one plant to another, okay, one flower to another, looking, for them they are looking for nectar. But in the process, they actually help you pollinate. And pollination is literally fertilization. So fertilization leads to seeds. The seeds that you eat of corn, maize, and all that is what? Yeah, as a result of fertilization. So without bees and wind, because some of it is blown by wind, and it helps you pollinate.
So it's impossible to separate them?
So it is, so what we do here, we make sure we isolate all our fields. Our fields here are isolated. So for example, we know that maize, pollen can move, I don't know how far they can move, 500 meters, 200 meters. So for you to be able to grow GM, you may need if you want to really separate, then you need to isolate your field 200 meters. Make sure no one else within that vicinity grows that kind of, because if pollen goes, pollen is genetically modified, so it will pollinate there and you get some. But otherwise, if you...
Yeah, but that's only for maize.
That's only for maize. If it's banana, you don't need to. You know,
if it's cassava, that's not a...
Soybean, you don't have to, because soybean, they are self-pollinated. So you know the difference between self-pollinated and cross-pollinated. That's the science.
So only maize would have a challenge. But sir, you're lab first.
Hey.
We shall answer all these questions.
So, okay, I'm telling you now. So this is it's called a tissue culture, and you remember I've been talking about transformation down there. Transformation means, yeah, that thing of converting from one just all over and you have something. There are many ways of saying, but anyway, so what we have here, tissue culture, we have tissue culture is a general term for growing tissue. Tissue, you know what tissue is? Tissue is...
like the skin is tissue?
Yeah, skin can be tissue.
A
leaf can be a tissue. A stem can be a tissue. Roots can be tissue. So if you're culturing that tissue, and culturing is growing. So we can grow, multiplying, we can grow.
Make a new plant.
I don't know, leaf. I want to start from. So because culturing can also come from bacteria.
Oh, yeah.
If you're growing yeast cells and you're using them for, you're culturing yeast. If you're growing anything that requires you to artificially grow something in a pure culture, in a pure form. So if it is a bacteria, it is one type or one kind. That is you're culturing. Generally, you're growing. Many, you're multiplying it, but you. So here we do tissue culture of plants. And plants, we do it at, we can culture the actual plant, but you can also culture the small tissues which have actually degenerated back, because here there's methods we can, but maybe I'm speaking a lot of science. But, so it's all about culturing, growing of plants, animals. So what we go, and so the other component is transformation, which requires now the actual putting in genes that were not there before. And that's the process I want to show you briefly. But the lab here requires that you put off your shoes.
We shall put them off.
It's nice.
We have no problem.
It's nice to explain to the team the uses of tissue culture.
Yeah.
It's good to know.
So tissue culture, we use tissue culture majorly for developing clean planting material. Disease-free. So as you may be aware, for vegetatively propagated crops that are grown from suckers, say banana, cuttings like cassava, sweet potato, because sweet potato is also you plant vines. So these plants, if you keep growing them, because your grandfathers just keep regrowing them years and years, they have the ability to degenerate with time. Degeneration means they deteriorate. because sometimes those viruses that attack them keep accumulating. Every time you replant, you carry over some material. So with time, you get less and less. So tissue culture can allow you to clean them and get more vigorous, more newer plants, so that when you take them out, they are more energetic. They can give you more yield. They can give you. So that's what tissue culture does, but also allows you to multiply things in a very short time. So for example, you can start with one small plantlet, and you will get thousands and thousands of plants from one. So that, you cannot imagine it doing it outside, because outside it would require so much land, so much resources. But here, in a short time, you're able to get much more material. So, but the other component of tissue culture is on conservation. So you people how problematic this climate change and what. So most of the material we have kind of become extinct. Not extinct, but maybe farmers have. Farmers have ignored them. They've stopped growing them because either they are not doing well, or they just cannot perform as expected. So here we can conserve them, because you remember that breeding requires all those resources. You need to have them. So you don't throw away. You come and conserve them. Here you can conserve things for 10 years, 15 years, just in an artificial environment. So those are generally the things about tissue culture.
So tissue
But then
culture works on specific plants?
you can literally use it for endless trees, crops, anything, as long as you have an interest in it. And the interest can be for a farmer, it can be for ornamental. It can be ornamental, like, so for example, flowers, roses. There are people who are changing roses from blue or whatever, red to blue. But people are doing all sorts of things, but using.
I wonder these trees they are using for making coffee.
Yeah, wabugia. Yeah. Here we have teak. We have bamboo. Some people, obviously, all these things need some bit of research, because you don't just do it. It starts slowly, but once you get it, you make a lot of money. There are several labs here in Uganda that make money from plant tissue culture. Erostas, Suga, and some other. Even NaCRRI had a lab. I don't know whether he's still there, but he sold us material. Yeah, if you can sell one plantlet at 3,000 shillings, that's ready to go.
Yeah, so but we use it, maybe to clarify, if you have a crop like maize, you can easily multiply it with seed, ordinary seed, the seed that you use to. If you have beans or soybeans or any other crop that has seeds, very easy to multiply with seeds. But if you read banana, you have to look for suckers.
Yes.
Now if you want to just plant 1 acre of bananas and you need 450 suckers, finding those suckers is going to be very, very difficult. Even if I ask one of you to find the suckers, and it will cost you a lot of money. But with tissue culture technology,
one actually
yourself done in the lab, but you can order for 1 million plants, and the lab guy will get it to you in 6 months.
Yeah.
1 million plants,
And clean ones.
and clean, no diseases in them, and the variety that you want. If I want this kisansa, if I want mpologoma, if I want chivuvu, they will make for you. They will use the tissue culture technology to multiply that for you. And as you say, tissue culture, even if I pick this leaf, I can start from here and still have 1,000 plants from a leaf.
Yeah, so
Now,
plants have that ability to get you. If that would happen for human beings, you would chop a little bit of piece here. It will give you several, so many people.
So
but plants that have the ability
the
to.
technical term you use for us, in other languages you'll be hearing the word cloning.
Yeah.
So cloning simply means multiplying the same
Many
of
copies.
something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So those plants will be exactly the same, but we don't do it for animals and humans yet, not in mass. I think for animals, remember the older generation, remember Dolly the sheep a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was cloned from it was a copy of a certain sheep, just an exact copy. But we haven't gone far, and for humans, people don't want human cloning here right now because we don't want another Malay. We really have him. Yeah. So, but in the far future, it might have a certain purpose. If we have a certain general, a certain good father of the nation, we want to have a young one who is exactly him. We may be able to. But that's digressing. So the point is, we use tissue culture to a lot multiply plants. Like, just copy and
make
paste.
many things
Yes.
of the same
And
thing, of the same kind.
The biggest use of tissue
Biggest use is that. But now when it comes to making genetically modified and grows very well, we know what is every minute mineral that is inside the soil, we know. And that is what we usually put at the bottom here. You see that? This is our soil.
That is not soil.
Artificial soil. It's a food. It's a food. It's the food. So we make this up ourselves. So if you know this is now this is sweet potato, and we know what sweet potato needs to grow. So we can mix all the components that make soil, make a plant grow, and then plant it here, and it will germinate as if it is in the field. Just that here it is in a small jar. We have confined, inside here is sterile. There's nothing else that can grow apart from the plant. And that's what it's, I was telling you about tissue culture. Tissue culture means you're only interested in this plant, you're not interested in anything else. Because out here, there's a lot of bacteria. So you have to close it and seal it and sterilize everything so that the plant can grow without any interference. So that is what I'm calling plant. So this medium, it would have been liquid. It would have been liquid in form. So we start off with the liquid, but we put something that makes it solid. So we put what they call a gel, a gelling agent. Have you ever boiled cassava? All carbohydrates. Sweet potato, When you boil it for a long time, there is that thing that forms a gel. So we know it. They're just old leaves. Older leaves drop off.
Henry, what are you doing here in this lab?
Yeah, so
how does it help our people, the farmers? How does it support us to industrialize, create more jobs? Or you guys are just happy doing your science?
Just doing your science.
We're just happy. Well, anyway. Anyway, so usually it's just that broader understanding of what goes on here. But then, particularly what we're doing here is, first of all, the things that we talked about outside, conservation, making sure you have long-term storage of genetic resources. So those are varieties that sometimes are no longer grown by farmers or at the verge of extinction. We keep them here because I told you they can stay here for as long as we have them. The second part is being able to produce clean planting material for farmers who need it. So you bring in something that's probably not growing very well, we clean it up for you, and then we give you thousands and thousands of plants like this that you can grow, that can germinate, that can grow very fast and very vigorously. That's the second thing. So that helps on the level of industrialization. Most farmers who require big acreage of, who need a lot of starting material production, require big acreage, and so they require lots of these materials. So they can come here and we supply tons and tons of it. So you can be able to multiply things very fast. The last one that I want to talk about is the genetic modification. So for farmers, say for example, that are struggling with certain challenges with production. Say for example in cassava where we have a disease called cassava brown streak disease, where we've used actually genetic modification, something similar to immunization, something similar to vaccination, where you introduce a small piece of DNA into the plant so that in future the plant is able to fight against that particular pathogen. So we produce plants that are going to be able to withstand this disease for a long time. So we have that. That entire room is full of genetically modified plants. Yeah, that's last room. These ones are for normal things, but that last room is full of that. So that's generally how we are helping farmers to, unless I've missed anything, but so this guy is a senior technician here and is mostly one actually doing this on the bench. So sometimes we hear stories that these things are being done from outside, what. But here, see where the guy is doing it. Yeah.
Case scenarios.
Like what?
Case scenarios like you've handled here.
Yeah, so case scenarios like for the best example, how it's done.
What has been handled here?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
issue has been handled here? And we've come up to that solution.
For cassava brown streak disease.
Which cassava did you clean and something like that?
No, that one, well, we do that on a regular basis, so it is not... Cleaning, I would say cleaning is an ongoing thing because it is, whenever you're bringing in something new, obviously it will be infected. So in order for you to have it here growing, normally it will be a clean plant, so for example. So that one we do on a regular basis. So if anyone wants thousands and thousands of plants of narrow Cas 1, most likely what will come out of this lab will be very clean material. Yeah? Hey.
But we also have plants that we produced here that are resistant to cassava brown streak disease through the genetic engineering pipeline. Those plants are outside in the CFT, confined field trial, where they are undergoing further tests to see how they withstand the disease pressure out there. So far they are doing very good.
Yeah, it's a very, but...
Have we had a national issue, a crop national issue that we are sorting?
Yeah, but the best crop national issue that we've sorted is basically cassava brown streak disease. Because initially we didn't have a trait. Well, breeders are trying to find tolerant varieties to cassava brown streak. But, well, there are things that farmers can grow, but obviously they're not like resistant. They will break down after a few years of cultivation. But with the genetic modification, we think those varieties, we've tested them for more than now 8 years, 10 years in the field. And we've seen that they actually can withstand this disease. This place is a hotspot for cassava brown streak. It's a hotspot, means if you have material that is not resistant, most likely they'll break down after one season. So, but what we've done, we've seen with our materials, after so many years of testing them, they still remain good. Yeah.
And they're in the field.
They're in the field. You can actually, we're going to have to see them.
What are their names again?
Those are the things we're looking at.
They what? They,
Names of these materials?
well, I would say they don't have names yet because they're still experimental materials. Yeah, they're not released. They're not being grown by farmers. So they still have codes. They have codes like UG what because of Uganda something. But once they get released by MAIF, then they will get a name. Yeah.
So we need a law as soon as possible.
Yeah. So we need a law just to allow us to be able to.
Henry had said they just put something very little of entire plant. And the plants they have improved. These are plants that farmers have been growing. Okay. Yeah, so even when you see them,
They look like our animal.
Yeah. The roots or whatever. The only difference that they can now resist the disease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The term that I told you, transformation, they've been changed.
Yes. So
And usually I want to show you, people can have a feel, you can have a feel of this. So these are,
Those are like cells of cassava.
those are cells. Yeah,
That's
cells.
cassava. You would start from a leaf, a very tiny leaf of cassava, and you want to get them to produce cells.
These are leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are very tiny.
They,
leaves
you know the
that
growing
you
point?
need the microscope to
remove
You can
them.
see them.
Oh,
You can now see.
So you break.
You keep, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, the growing teeth.
Now,
Then you put them on media. The media should allow them to progress to
The
that.
media is the gel.
The media is the food.
yeah, is the
The
food.
soil. The
Now,
nutrients.
now, what I wanted to explain to you, like this guy was showing you a leaf right there, okay? And this leaf can actually produce many more plants from this leaf.
Just one leaf like
Yeah.
this.
So by use of auxins and what, we are able to kind of, you know, sending something back. Eh? You know, you can degenerate some. You can have something, but reverse it. Eh? It goes back to cellular level, to a baby. Then you regrow it back again. So that is, that is. So from a leaf, which is an organized tissue, we know what we call organized tissue. So a leaf is an organized. Okay? If underdeveloped.
Process and store seed for the breeders. So we deal mainly with our mandate crops, and for the seed section, that means we deal with the rice, we deal with the maize, and then for the conservation part, we do mainly clono conservation part, and we deal with the cassava, yam, and sweet potato. So we do in vitro conservation of cassava, yam, and sweet potato, and seed storage for maize and rice.
How long can the materials stay here?
Sorry?
How long can you keep materials here?
As long as you can.
100 years, 50 years, 20 years?
Yes, but of course with the frequent checking and confirming that what you have is.
You need to maintain them.
Yes, so you keep checking on them, and if you find the viability is going low, you rejuvenate them. And, yeah, but you can keep as long as more than 50 years if you processed it well. The right-hand side is for the processing and storage of the seed, and the left-hand side is for the conservation of the clonal crops. So the clonal crops and the seed crops are separated. So you can see this side.
What is clonal?
Clonal, like coffee, banana, sweet potato, cassava, which doesn't have seed, and then these others which have seed, the maize and the rice. So generally, this is where we keep our clonal crops. Some of these we collected them from various parts of the country. So our local cassava, like
are the lights sunshine?
It's not sunshine. It is automatically controlled.
Yes, is it replicating sunshine?
Yes, replicating the outside conditions, sunshine. Even in the jazz, it's an artificial soil. And those conditions are like the conditions replicated from what is from the outside environment. Yeah. I'm sorry you came when the control system is a bit faulty.
We should not open. Can you open?
No, you cannot open. Yeah, those ones are not yet functional. So this is the only room that is functional for now. And the other rooms are supposed to be similar like this one, but for them they are not operational.
For example, flour, if it is cassava flour, that is a product, okay? So how should you be able to make flour out of this? We make other commercial products, like bioplastics, bioethanol, biodiesel, you'll be able to see them here and there. And when we do those, we make sure that the crop gets the market it is supposed to have. So that means we project it into the market because it has a product. And when it has a product, it can go to the market. But also we make it useful and we also help the breeders to improve it further so that it can make more sense to other people. Okay, that's what we do. So we do it through training students, working in the lab, and many other things. So we are going to see that in the lab.
Your full name, please.
You didn't get it. Ephraim Nwamanya. You want me to say Dr. Ephraim Nwamanya?
Yes.
Dr. Ephraim Nwamanya. We train them from here. So we train each and everybody. Everybody's trainable. As long as you carry a head on your shoulders, you can put something there and then you'll be able to work in this lab. If I use the wrong terminology, sorry, I'm a teacher. Do that. So this is what we do here. And basically, for citizenship, since you said that, this is where we interact with the many universities that we interact with. So we have working MOUs with almost all the universities in Uganda. And on in the day you will find students from NaCRRI, most of them are from NaCRRI, UCU, Ndeje University, Chambogo University, talk about it. So as long as they have an element of crops research or something of that sort, then we train them from here and they also do work from here. So that means as part of our mandate is to train, because NaCRRI is not only research, we also have a training component. Our outreach component is basically training. This is where we do it from. So what do we train them on? We can train them on simple skills. Some of our universities are actually not equipped well enough to handle scientific training of the level they want, so they can do it from here. And also, we train even farmers. So for example, how do you produce gari? How do you do this? How do you do this? So we usually do it from here. That is our main training area for that purpose. Okay? Yeah. Then hey, sorry. So, come in. No, there's no spaghetti today. Now, this is what you can call a really, the real citizenship interaction now. So here, you don't need any training to be here. But you can be here to appreciate what you can do with crops. And as I said, if you have something that you are thinking about that you want to do, this is where we make it fruition. This is where we make it possible as such. We make it happen. So whatever small bottle, small thing you see is because maybe a student or a technician or a farmer came here and had an idea. We played around with it and we came up with something which we call a product. And this is why I was saying that we influence what you see on the what? In the market. So for example, this is already a product on the market. So we influenced what is in this beer by doing research that helps Uganda breweries to produce a beer. That means we do the kind of analysis and all those things that help a company to appreciate that cassava can be used to make a what? A beer. So I think that now directly translates into helping people out there to appreciate the role of crops and do it the way it's supposed to be done. So we have prime products, we have normal products, we have all sorts of things. This is normal, it can be done. So these are sweet potato cookies. And there is a company called Divine Organic Foods that is doing this. So this is an innovation that has come from here. To Divine Organic. You know Divine Organic? Yes. Yeah, so they are doing this, and we're very proud of them because they have taken up this and appreciated it, and they're doing it. We also have the flour, which we call orange fresh sweet potato flour. This is human food. This is also Divine Gold. It is UNBS certified. So by working around how do you prepare flour, what kind of material you're going to use, how do you do it, then we come up with such a product, okay? It is on the market, so you can go out there and you'll be able to buy it. We also have, this is also Divine, but we also have lab-based products like this. So somebody was talking about purple fresh sweet potato. So this flour is purple, okay? So this is normal flour that comes from a purple fresh sweet potato. So what we do
is basically to make the flour, and you can see how it looks like. Where do you think this can be applied? Porridge, yes. For kids, because they like color, yeah. Where? You look like you don't eat sweet potato now. Yes, soup. Yeah, that is a nice one. Making soups that actually make sense to the consumers. Karo, yeah. Sweet mushroom soup. Have you seen kazire, the purple one?
Yes.
This could be a colorant in there. So instead of using artificial colorants, you can put this one there. We can actually extract it and make it possible. So we have this. It is also like hibiscus, exactly. But now you can see with sweet potato, you can grow it en masse, you can be able to multiply it very fast, and you have a lot of color around you. So we are working with some companies. There's one called Agrosano. They're making cakes, colored cakes out of this. We want to work with Kazire to extract for them this. We are still running around with them because they also want to feel where they fit in. So this is like a kind of product that you will see here, because this is a student trying to promote the flour, but then this flour gets out there and makes sense. So that's a contribution of NaCRRI, that's a contribution of the academia and other people like that. And then, right,
when they do the
this one?
potato.
Yeah, you can smell it. To kill you. Don't inhale it. You will inhale the thing, okay? You have the flavor is good.
Can I drink some?
No.
Just sweet potato flour.
The problem with you is that you always want to taste. No chemicals. So because you see, the market informs how we think. Because you go out there, people talk organic, natural. I see on Twitter there's a lot of natural foods. People are into that. So we have to adjust ourselves into making sure that whatever we do applies to the market. However, those are some of the things. This is cassava. I don't know, should I go product by product? No.
Maybe you can repeat this, Enguli. Yeah. Yes.
So
just a bit of what NaCRRI does there.
So what NaCRRI does in this is that we do the analysis on the varieties, we understand what is there, and then we help the brewery to be able to use it. So what I mean is this, we select the right variety. After selecting the right variety, we tell the people what is in that variety, but we also go ahead to do protocols for fermentation and other things that will be able to give you a beer. Okay?
Fantastic.
So that is what we do. Now, let me talk about some of the prime products we have. This is cassava. This is your typical gari.
Yes.
You said you want very little.
No, they were a kilo.
A kilo?
Yes.
No, a kilo you can't get it. So we don't have a kilo with us here. We made very small.
What is that? What is cassava?
So cassava gari is ready to eat porridge. So you just get this, put it in hot water, eat it there and there. Okay? It's more of a West African product, but it's something that we want to promote in schools. So instead of packing for your kids those funny things, you can pack them this when somebody's going to boarding school.
In hot water and
so you just put in hot water, even if the water is lukewarm, you'll still be able to.
With sugar.
Yeah, but I don't. If you
take
sugar. Fine. So now this is cassava flour. This is cassava flour from different varieties. So you can see, for example, this is almost yellowish. Because for different application, some people want this, and other people want the one that is whitish. Then we have biodiesel. Biodiesel is our prime product. So this is, you can smell, it's normal diesel.
See, there is cooking oil.
You are lying.
Yeah, not lying. So what smells like what? Cooking oil. So what we do is that when you use the oil, you know that Mama Kachara somewhere making chips, you will keep using that oil for so long. So what we did with this project is pick that oil, because by the time he uses it the second or third time, it is already carrying dangerous things in there. So pick the oil from there, use chemistry, basically, use a catalyst that comes from eggs. These are eggshells. Make calcium hydroxide, which is the catalyst. Then use ethanol from cassava and break down the cooking oil into a combustible fuel, which is the biodiesel you have seen
So
there.
there are cars that you can
Can it drive a car?
It can drive cars with all those old engines. Now, that means we have not yet refined our technology to reach a level where we can, you know, the cars have like nozzles that feed the engine. So this is a bit heavier. It can't pass through there. But then with normal generators, it can be able to do a good job. Actually, we have seen it work on normal generators, walking tractors, you know the walking tractors, the Massey Fergusons, all that, it can run. Now, the biggest issue here is the raw material. Very few people are willing to give you their used oil. They want to and that is the biggest problem in Uganda. But then eggshells are everywhere. Those ones
eggshells are for these normal eggs of ours.
So finally, is we have a product also that this is a bioplastic. So this bioplastic, this is something that we have worked with for quite a while now, about 6 years. We have been improving it. It is now at the stage when it is going to the market, and we are so proud about that, because when we started, all we wanted was to eliminate the cavera from the market. So we are trying to make a bioplastic from cassava. The cassava starch. So you get the cassava starch.
The gentleman, Duncan, quoted the tweet. I don't know whether I saw it last week.
Yeah, so that gentleman is from here, that student, Yarugaba. Yeah, so he was trained from here, but this is something we have worked with for about 6 years.
So this is from cassava?
This is, it decomposes completely, it's biodegradable. However, we realized we cannot deal with the cavera the way we want. So what we did is now we are trying to develop seedling wraps. A seedling. Just put like this, make a seedling wrap, put a seedling there, just plant. Okay? Because you know, instead of using planting material. So that is, we are now working with a tree planting project in Mbare, Mount Elgon Tree Planting Project. That project is supported by UK and the Ugandan government, and we are trying to make for them seedling wraps, so that when you go out there to plant the trees, just go and do what? Plant. So this is also something from chemistry and playing around with the cassava and the right. Now, from what I've said, I could say, yeah, in future we can. So what we have as shopping bags is this. So since the cavera couldn't work, we thought this. So just get that, put it on this surface. You see the surface is shining. When you see from inside. Okay? So that means it becomes oil and water resistant. So for the use, when you have your chindas here, you are going to visit your boyfriend.
It's made from cassava. It's also from cassava.
Yeah, it's from cassava. Okay, so what I would say is that from this interaction, you can see that we are trying to answer to the needs in society, but we're also trying to look at the pressing needs globally. Because some of these products actually can play globally. So for example, the bioplastic, we have a very good collaboration with UK, Bangor University, and we are working with them. They have interest in the innovation, but they are also interested in making sure that it goes to the people there and works. So you realize that makes us a bit more people pro, because it is easy to get the people with this kind of innovations, and also convince them that these things work. But also convince you guys that actually crops can actually make a lot of sense, all right? And they do make sense indeed.
Why is the president telling us to eat cassava?
Now, why is the president telling us to eat cassava? One time I made a tweet on cassava, and I was telling people that, you know what, my father used to ask me, why are you doing a PhD on cassava? Why don't you do a PhD on banana? So I come from Busheni, and banana is a big deal. So why the president is saying so is because of what we know. One, it is very resilient. The the truth is that you can grow cassava anywhere, and cassava will be almost everywhere. So for you to deal with a population that is facing difficulty, you need a crop that is resilient. Because at whatever cost, it will always be there. Two, it has a very high caloric value, meaning that when you eat it, you have more energy. So the biggest problem in Uganda and in Africa in general is both calories and energy, but also the protein. Now, cassava will not give you the protein. However, it can give you energy to survive as you look for the what?
As you chase the animal.
As you chase the animal and the like. Now, that means in terms of survival, it is a crop that can help the population to survive through many problems. When we had COVID here, one of the crops that actually got more input in terms of farming and the like was basically cassava. Most people planted cassava. That means when people are pushed into threat mode, they will plant resilient crops because they know they will survive with them. When they are relaxed, they will plant these luxury crops, the Irish and the like. So I think that is why he's promoting it. I support him 100%.
On that one?
On that. On many other things. I don't support him on some policies because somebody is recording, but I think that was a good one. And
where do you support him?
On some policies. that is policy, not politics. But now, the other bit of cassava that we need to think about is, can you be able to transform a seed system easily? So we have seen this work. We have seen where people have been able to move from one single cutting, and then you get so many. Then finally, all these products you see here, most of them come from cassava. That means if you go to NDP3 and you want to agro-industrialize, then that is where cassava should be. Because it can do so many other things that actually when you have it, you'll be able to do more than you ever thought. So I think that is why. Okay?
Thank you.
On the substituting wheat? Substituting wheat, yes. I didn't talk about that. Now, you know, there is somebody in the Kiryandongo substituting wheat with cassava. And when he came here, his question was, can I use cassava to make bread? He said yes, but people won't like it. He said, so what should I do? You can substitute with wheat. And we prayed around, you know, Sosin, it's called Sosin. It's been on Star TV so many times now. So what he did was to play around with these ratios, and because he's an entrepreneur, he could easily get into the bakeries. And actually now they are using a 30 to 70 substitution for cassava to wheat, and they are aiming at 50-50. So that means you can substitute it with wheat. The bread will be heavy, it will carry the same calories, however it will not be so big, sorry, because the properties of wheat allow you to swell the what? The bread. It will be soft, yes. Now the trick here is you just have to play around with the modification. So what I didn't talk about is that in this lab, we modify. So you have your flour, you play around with it and you modify it. When you modify it, then you are able to use it in so many other ways. I think it makes sense for you to modify. If you don't modify, it won't make a lot of sense. And that is where you people from the government, I also come from the government, should aim at when you, for example, you support a project. The project should be able to support a modification that plays around almost everybody. So you don't just tell people, eat cassava, but ask them, how would you want to eat cassava? Then they will tell you, oh, we want to eat it like this. Then we now modify it to fit their what? Their needs. Otherwise, they will keep laughing at you. Oh, you want us to eat cassava?
You don't want to eat it.
Yes. Okay, I think.
After years of your research and these great innovations like the conveyor, do you patent your product?
Nice question. So I've always wanted to patent, but remember our law on patents. This is basically public. Where do I come in as a scientist, as a researcher? The government should pay me for doing that well.
Just say pay him, that's why he wants more pay, so that then he ask for practice.
I'm indirectly saying you raise my low glycemic, the rice which when you eat, it releases glucose to the blood slowly. And we have also released them. So the fear that rice is not good for us is no longer the case. Through breeding, we have low glycemic rice. Back there, if you see behind those fields, there are some rice where you see the panicles darker. Where the head like this, they are dark, they are black. They are actually black rice. Rice with grains that are black. That is the type of rice which has high anthocyanin. That is what the body needs for protection, for immunity. And it's also the type that gives you antioxidant. In case you are fighting for immunity, that is the type. So we have developed what we call specialty rice, and that can be packaged and made available now for many people who are having high immunity problem and old age. So through rice science, we're able to address the need of the young, the elderly, and those who want to spend more for it. That is a specialty rice. We have them available. But we have a few challenges. One of them is that rice is a very young research component. Compared to other commodities, rice has had fewer trained people. And the few that we have trained, we have also not yet absorbed them. And a number of them are going to do some work in town because recruitment has not yet been open. So we feel it's very important that we absorb them into the rice work. Otherwise, we will be net importers of rice. And being a net importer of rice has a few challenges. Number one, countries that export rice, they don't export fresh rice. They export what has been in store for a year or two because they have their stock. They know things can be bad, so they put in stock. Now when they put in stock, the fresh one replaces when the old one we can now compete for. And rice which has stayed in store for long, especially when it's already milled, it absorbs moisture. That one is called hygroscopic. And once it comes along in the ship, by absorbing moisture, they get foreign bodies. And the issue of aflatoxin comes in. So the rice we normally buy are actually poor quality rice because it has been milled and stayed for long. But we like it because it doesn't have stones, it is easy to cook, but it has been milled and it has absorbed moisture and it's not healthy for the body. So having a locally grown rice with good milling capacity where we can sort out and you eat it within the year is the best. So local production should be encouraged. Another one is that if we don't import at all, then we will be, if we don't produce at all, then we'll be competing with those who have higher purchasing capacity. The price is much higher when they're sending it to Europe and to the US. Now, we settle for the cheaper one because we think it's the best. So we need to balance and have good local production that can satisfy the growing demand of the population because the youth are going for rice.
Lastly, what is the quantity we produce annually?
We produce
around 230,000 metric tons of rice in milled form, which means if it is unmilled, it's around 300,000 paddy.
You said you produce different types of rice, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Now that's a very good question.
Where do I find it?
This is not no. What happens? Those who market rice, they dissociate from the variety name which we have. They can call it super because they have super which is big. The super, and they even now sell varieties that are as big as super but not aromatic. That one is called buyo. They brand it as super. That's why some people say the first super is aromatic, the other super is not aromatic. It's because they don't want to bring the variety name for market purpose. Now, when it comes now to the glycemic rice, we have just released it in December. So it's just being, it's being bulk and made available. Yeah.
Then the black one?
But we now need a task. We need to brand it so that when somebody is buying it, it is now rice too. It is. But if we delay to brand it, it will go as normal because there's a missing link somewhere there.
And the black rice?
The black rice is at the final stage for release. But before we release it, we need to do the health test and the packaging of different products because we're not going to sell it as black rice in the market. It will be processed in a form that you can now take. Yeah.
Okay.
Basmati.
Yes. Yes. Basmati is a variety developed in India. It is slender and it's aromatic. Because Uganda is a member of the International Rice Society and Africa Rice, we get all those germplasm and we are free to test and make it available. But unfortunately, Uganda is a hotspot for diseases. And some diseases which are not even in India. One is rice yellow mottle virus. So whenever we brought them 10, 15 years ago, they succumbed to disease. So we went into breeding to develop new basmati. So by luck, the NaCRRI rice too we are saying is low glycemic. It's actually aromatic. It's also a new basmati. That's what they are calling it.
When are you releasing it?
That was released
in December.
Yes.
Wow.
Potato, and one of the biggest challenge in sweet potato that we have in Uganda is the problem of sweet potato weevils. The sweet potato weevils is the most harmful pest of sweet potato worldwide, and what it does, it accesses the roots and create holes in it, oviposit the eggs in it, and the eggs will start hatching and tunneling within the roots. And once the sweet potato weevil accesses the roots, the plant produces some bitter toxic compound that makes the sweet potato roots to be tasteless. That's why if you are peeling sweet potato and you find the ones with weevil in it, you cannot actually eat it. So what we are doing here is ways of managing pests. And one of the ways that we are using to manage pests is the use of microbes. We are using microorganisms from the soils. The soil has a diversity of organisms within it, including bacteria, fungi, the nematodes, and we are trying to harness these organisms to manage pests. So with this experiment that we are having here, we started in 2017 and we isolated 15,000 different species of microbes, fungi and bacteria, and we are screening them to see if at all we can be able to use these microbes to manage the pests of sweet potato. So maybe some can come and see what's happening. What happens is we culture these microbes in the lab, and we come here in the screen house and we introduce the weevils here and we spray them with these microbes. And when we spray, this is the kind of what we see. If you see these weevils here, they have developed, maybe some can come and see what's happening with it. Yeah. So like this one here, these are the weevils. And we hope that this pathogen, the fungi that we've applied here, should be able to control sweet potato weevil in Uganda. And we hope to develop a number of products. I told you guys that we isolated 15,000 different species of microbes, fungi and bacteria, and we are screening. We have screened a few so far. And something like this that is causing a lot of mortality should be able to provide an effective management of this pest. So we are not only doing this for sweet potato weevil as well. We are screening different pathogens, fungi, trying to see if they can manage fall armyworm. We are doing the same for the fruit flies. You know, the fruit flies destroys a lot of fruits in the country. Mangoes, oranges, it's extremely polyphagous. And they attack a number of fruits in the country. And it's the reason why most of the fruits from Uganda is rejected at international markets. So we are trying to explore the possibility of using microbes to handle that. We are working on the banana weevils, trying to use microbes plus other pests. We're working on the caterpillars of sweet potato butterflies and a lot of other pests. And all this, we are doing it because the most control measures used to manage pests is the chemicals. And we all know the effect of chemicals on ourselves. Those who eat tomatoes, you go to the market, you find tomatoes covered with those white things. Those are chemicals. And if you consume it, slowly by slowly, it will have an effect on you. So we are trying to use an agent like a microbe, a fungi, or a bacteria to manage this pest. And those microbes, they don't have much effect on our body. And we can say it's safe. It's protective in the environment in that, unlike chemicals which kill other insects within the environment, these microbes is just specific in action. So this is one of the technologies that we as NaCRRI are trying to do to manage the different pests and vectors that are a problem to our crops in the country. I will welcome questions, if at all they are there. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
Welcome.
Yeah, we've not understood so much, but at least we've heard about some of the familiar things and how you're fighting the disease. Yeah. So apart from a vote of thanks, we have no questions.
Okay.
Because they are the same as bean weevils.
No, these are sweet potato weevils.
But like the way bean weevils affect the beans, it's the same way that.
No. This is a little different. Oh. So this is literally, these are the insects. These are our trials. We're just trying to see if these pathogens actually kill the sweet potato weevils. And this is what we get. A lot of insects here have been killed with this pathogen. And we are doing this experiment now in the field. And so far we have been able to get good results. So we hope we shall develop a number of products that we'll put in the market. Our target is countries in all of the sub-Saharan Africa. It's a big project. We are targeting a global fight on sweet potato weevils. We have colleagues in the United States that are working on a different weevil species. Sweet potato have 3 weevil species. The 2 are in Uganda. No, the 2 are in the African continent. The one in the United States and those Asian countries are also different. So our colleagues in the United States are working on the Silas formicarius, a weevil species that destroys sweet potato in that part of the world. And for us in Africa, it's NaCRRI that is running this experiment. So whatever products that we get from here, we should be able to use it across the African continent. Yeah. So if there are no questions, I think we can move on.
mandate is to carry out research on fruits, vegetables, and oil palm, in addition to other fruit trees. Our mandate, as I said, is conducting research, which research should contribute to the economic development of the country. And within that, we always follow our activities, or align our activities with the National Development Plan 3 and also the strategic plan for NaCRRI. And our program, we develop varieties. For example, we've released 5 varieties of mangoes. That was way back in 2005. But when we look at our impact within that sector, most of the materials which have been distributed by Wealth Creation, as well as NADS, were among those 5 recommended varieties. These were recommended based on areas where they are best grown and agroecologies where they yield most. From our impact study, we've realized that in 2005, the acreage for Uganda was 16,000 hectares of mangoes, but this has been elevated now to 20,000 hectares because of those varieties were released which have been adapted by a few. But we are still encouraging, because that is still a small acreage compared to what we need. Previously, we used to import in close to 13 metric tons of mangoes from Kenya, which now has reduced to almost 5,000 metric tons per year. But this has been because our mangoes are seasonal. What I mean by seasonal is that there are months where we run out of mangoes across the country. And that is the time when the Kenyans get the chance to bring in their materials. But we developed one technology here, which we call off-seasonal mango production. And with that, we only induce the mangoes to flower of the actual period, actual season. And when we induce them to flower, it means they will yield of the season. So that technology has already been developed by one of our own here, and we are looking at taking it to the farmers, because these are the end users or the beneficiaries of such kind of technology. So we are hopefully in the next 2 to 3 years in Uganda we'll be able to produce off-seasonal mangoes. We also do research on vegetables. Recently we released 12 varieties of tomato, cabbage, eggplant, and kale. And these, we are hopeful that once they are adopted, they will have to increase on the vegetables being grown here. You realize that most of the vegetable seeds are being imported here. What we are trying to intervene is that we want to see that our local companies are able to produce this seed, because once we release, we go into production of early generation seed, which we always forward to the seed companies to multiply and then sell to the rest of the country. We've also ventured into oil palm production. We have one of our first nurseries for oil palm in the country. But this is not to supply the local people, but it's for research purposes. You came in a bit late, but it's on my right down there. So if you are coming from Bugema, you would see along the road. It's a very beautiful kind of nursery, close to 1 hectare. And we are housing like 12,000 seedlings there of different varieties. But these are brought in the country to try to see where are they best adapted. And of recent, there is a lot of demand for this kind of seedlings, but we are looking at a faster way of identifying those which are suitable for this country. Then we can give them to the private sector for multiplication and supply to the farmers. That is basically what we do here in a nutshell. Where we are is just a fruit nursery. On my extreme right, we have a collection of fene, that is the jackfruit. That is a collection from the central part of the country. We are here to evaluate them and see those which are good for both the local market and processing, then be able to release them out to the farmers. Here we have the mangoes, which I've already talked about. These are grafted ones. We graft to fasten the process of maturity. If you plant a mango seed, it will take 5 to 6 years for you to get the fruits. But when we graft at 3 years and a half, if it's under good management, you are able to get the mangoes. Here we are involved into this because we realize that when you go to the roadside people, they have the materials, but they are mixed up. If today you pick a mango along the road, if someone tells you this is Tommy Atkins, you may go and plant that mango, but after 3 years, you may realize that you have the local kagogwa. It's local thing of ours. So, in terms of genetic purity, that is our driving process, and also the quality, because once you get it from here, you know it's the right thing. And what we give you as information is the right information you could use to do the management, as well as also the maturity and how the pests and diseases are controlled. We also develop information materials for those particular commodities we deal with. I think you might have come in when we are not yet set, but we have in place close to 9 different production manuals for all the different varieties of mangoes, citrus, and avocado we deal with, and also the vegetables, the indigenous vegetables. So through him, I'll be able to deliver those materials. And he had requested if you could also go with a bit of the mangoes and whatever, so it will be a better kind of gesture. And also, you advertise our materials out there. I know they are the best, and you like them when they start the fruiting. Yes, you may be surprised that we have those mangoes, but the fruits are not there. It's intended, because whatever we raise there, one is like a germplasm bank. We have a collection of around 38 different materials, varieties, which are being genetically conserved there. So what we do, we also use that same field as a source of scions. What we graft here, we pick it from there. So when you pick a scion, that is the kind of, in the layman's language, that is the branch which is going to give you fruits next season. So when you pick it and bring it and graft it here, that means the other orchard will not give you fruits. That is why you don't see the fruits there.
What is the scion, sir?
The scion is what you put on top. This is the rootstock. So we plant the local rootstock as kagogwa. Kagogwa is a type of local mango which is spread across the country. But what we realized with it is resistant to most of our soil-borne diseases. So that is what we use down here to prevent being attacked by the diseases. Then what you put on top, that is the scion. Where is this other boy?
Another one?
Zubair. Where is he?
There's one there.
So what we do, like if I need a mango like Tommy Atkins. Tommy Atkins is one of our best. I'll just plant kagogwa. After it has attained 30 centimeters, I'll cut off this and get the variety I need best. Maybe Florigone or kagogwa, or Tommy or kakule, then graft it on top. So the mango which will come, the fruit which will come, this is now the grafted one. So the one on top is your desired mango. So if you need Tommy Atkins, This will be Tome Atkins, and it's the one which will give you the fruits. The one down here is just to protect this one from pests and disease. That is basically what we do. Yeah. This cuts across avocado, mango, and citrus. Yeah. So what we are raising here is rootstocks of citrus. This is purely lemon. It's not orange, it's not... So what we do, since lemon in the citrus family is more resistant to soil-borne disease, we use it as a rootstock. So when we need a good variety like a Washington Navy, Valencia, all that, we graft it on top, and then after like 6 months, it's ready to go to the field.
What are the yellow dots on top of the leaves?
Yellow dots, these are leaf spots. It's a disease. Yes. So this is what we call the leaf spot for citrus. So it attacks the leaves, and out there in the field you always find it a lot, and also it attacks the fruits. Yeah, those ones which reach in the market with these kind of spots. Yeah, but it can be controlled. We have an integrated kind of management practice which we can use to reduce this. And this is one of our interventions, I think, where we have also scored high in the citrus industry. 2 years back, there was an outcry in Sorot about the leaf spot. And one of our own developed a management practice involving a number of chemicals. The spray routine and the different chemicals you use to avert this. And this has reduced a lot on the farmer's field, those who have adapted this kind of practice. Yeah.
Okay. Time? Where is the bucket? Do you have price rates for each of these varieties?
Price list, it cuts across, is common, 2.5 for each. Yeah.
You need to now.
Yeah.
But today you're giving us on the house.
On the house?
Yeah.
No. Sorry, I'll be accountable for it because this is NTR. Yeah.
Okay. So we are ready. Any more questions? We are going to the cassava GMO field before we see the maize, and then we have NaCRRI.
Vegetables, we have a screenhouse the other side, and aquaponics. Aquaponics, this is an integration between vegetables and fish. But this is an off-season kind of thing, whereby for the field you will not find vegetables right now. But we also work on vegetables, and even the local ones, the indigenous ones, the nakati, the ntula, amaranth, all that. But now we have it in seed.
Anyone who needs materials can always come back.
Yeah.
If you want to plant your gardens, just get in touch. We'll give his contact.
Yeah.
For today, our materials, we shall put them in the car. Okay.
Oh,
so let us go to the field. The materials will be in the car.
Okay. I told you earlier in the lab. So these materials here are immunized against cassava brown streak, the virus that causes cassava brown streak disease. Just like the way you're getting your COVID shield, COVID whatever. While for COVID they're using they're using that spike protein to give you that protection.
Don't confuse us.
So for this one, we're just using a cod protein. It's the same thing. You hear people talking about it. Yeah. So you kind of get used to it as they talk about it. Yeah. So that's the whole point. So these materials are here. So they're about probably 6 months. Yeah. And as you can see, they look good. I wanted to show you examples of the disease.
There's that one.
I want to show you.
You've already seen it.
Only black leaf.
Yeah, what
started now.
So there's mosaic. Mosaic is different. It just makes the leaves go.
Yeah.
They fold like this and become mottled. But for
Like
brown
they
streak,
wither.
they remain normal, but you'll see some loss, some symptoms. The symptoms mostly happen on the leaves, and then you also see some symptoms on the stems. Oh, so this is just mosaic. So this is the symptom of mosaic. Yeah, but most of these materials are resistant to mosaic. So because if they were not resistant, you would see a lot of it. I think you've seen those ones that grow into we call it a candlestick. They have no leaves. So that's typical mosaic. But for the breeding work, breeders have tried to reduce those varieties within the population. We have resistance. We have material that can resist this.
Trying to fight.
Yeah, but the plant is also trying to fight. You can see, because if it were not fighting back, they would be folded like this, completely. Okay? And when they are folded like that, the plant cannot make food, because a plant makes food from the sunlight. It makes food, and the food goes down to the storage roots. The roots that you eat come from there. So, no, this is not herbicide tolerance. Herbicide tolerance is also a trait that you give to the plant, so that when you spray like weeds like this, you don't mind spraying on your plant, because the plant will be tolerant to the herbicide. So in other words, you can weed without necessarily using so much money, because you can imagine how much they would charge you for weeding this entire garden if you were to just spray everything without worrying about. So that's a trait also that people are trying to work on, but mostly in soybean. And maize. So there's a team in actually Herbert is even part of it. Soybean herbicide tolerant. Yeah, so they are trying to develop one. And if that technology comes, it will be very good for the farmers, because weeding can be very expensive. Yeah, very expensive. So you lower the production costs, and the farmer can enjoy his, because here we weed, they can charge you 250,000 per acre. Yeah, so if you're doing large scale and you have 500 acres, weeding 500 acres is so costly.
It's impossible.
Yeah, it's almost close to impossible.
Can we see a tuber?
No, you can't, because these are still young.
These ones, what about?
Maybe the ones up there, but still.
You have to dig them out.
You have to dig them out.
So
the best thing now, I promise you, the best thing that you can do, the day we harvest, I'm going to request Herbert, and probably you come and we harvest together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go home.
Even the GMOs, you come. No, you're not going with them. You're not going with them, but you can witness. You can see where the controls are.
My question is, how long have you had this?
I told you it's about 6 months, I think.
Okay, so this research has been there for 6 months?
No, this field, this
Only
experiment.
This
Okay.
Yeah.
Because my question would then be, why aren't these plants into the community?
Hey, man, that is why you're here. We don't have. So for you to be able to give these materials to farmers to grow normally, the normal way would be, if they're not through this process of genetic modification, you progress, you select. So from among these materials, you keep selecting and moving forward. The candidates that are going to the farmer, you need to go and do participatory research with them. You take it to the farmer himself at his field and plant a little bit at his garden, so that when he comes to harvest, he can evaluate with you. So this process goes on until the farmer, you select one variety that the farmer can say, for me, we've seen, and not only one farmer, so many farmers even across the country, until they identify one variety that now gets released as NaCRRI 1. It performs well everywhere. So for GM, it's different. GM, you have to first of all prove that the product is safe, because the most important thing here is safety, both to you, the person going to eat, and to the environment. The scientist is the person who will consume, so it's part of it. So the environment, you're removing things like things can be invasive, and they can, you know how dangerous they can be to the environment because it's GM. But also safety for consumption, food. So we don't release anything that is going to be bad for the community, for people to eat. So that's why the processes have to be there. But now where we are, we have provided all the data that shows that these materials are safe. But we don't have a law that allows us to take it to the community. So they've been here for more than 10 years. And the government, so the garden over there has been there for maybe 3 years now. It is supposed to be our demonstration, but we allow people like you to come and see without coming here. Usually want to keep these trials safe, but we've kept it there, and now we've cut it back. It will germinate again, and we'll cut it down, it will germinate again. Yeah, but so 10 years we have never seen disease, or the disease that we're targeting. So as soon as the regulations come that allow us to move these materials from within these confinements, these things that you see around, the chain link, to give it to farmers outside, is when you farmers who are going to be able to consume this material. I think for us we are ready. For us we are ready. Yeah.
I know other countries share this research with you people. Haven't they already implemented in some way?
So here we work with, Kenya, we're doing same kind of work. So Kenya has actually gone ahead and allowed for, they call them national performance trials. So national means they're going to plant them throughout the country.
Without the wires.
Without the wires, without these borders, yeah. For them, they have allowed to go ahead. I think they are still doing something small called the environmental impact assessment. That's what they are doing now.
The environment people also have
issues.
Interest.
They have an interest.
Our NEMA here in 2019, they amended the NEMA law to the clause that have GM. So when now you are releasing, they may also ask you certain things. What are these? Does it fulfill ABC? And if they could provide a form for that, it would be easier for these scientists to fulfill that requirement. Yeah. The previous Biosafety Forum, the executive director of NEMA mentioned that they have been working together with the National Council for Science and Technology to develop that guideline. That if Henry now wants to take this crop beyond confinement, NEMA would, if they get a clearance from NEMA, and UNCST says it's safe, then they would go to the next process, which is going to the Ministry of Agriculture Variety Release Committee to make sure that the variety that comes here is suitable to most of the environments.
Agroecology.
So it's an elaborate process that by the time a farmer receives a variety, it has really gone through a lot of regulatory.
How many materials are you testing here?
So here we have come down, in this field we have come down to 4. Actually among those 4, they are all would actually go to the farmer because we have seen the roots look good, so they could potentially become varieties. But we cannot go to varieties without this, the path, that path is what is actually preventing us to get to the farmer. So one last thing I want to relate it to, you're going to see another field like this. This is GM, but no, we should finish that one first. This is GM, but it's only a small part of the normal breeding pipeline. So we want Dr. Kauchi here to come and maybe we shall end it all here because there's
As
So-
Dr. Kauchi comes, how are you able to sustain this thing? Because you're planting a garden for 10 years, you're cutting it.
For the government.
No, but there's also a reason why. There's also a reason why we are doing it that way. To determine how durable your trait is. So if a farmer was given this material, how long would they keep recycling the material until it completely can't be? So that's also part of the experiment we're doing. So how the durability of the trait, because most things we know that they break down after a few years, because the virus keeps accumulating in that material, so they can't hold it anymore. So that's also one part why we do it. But we've also been evaluating extra materials we've generated through process, because some of these materials came through crosses. You cross a transgenic with a non-transgenic, you get a transgenic.
Cross
A GMO with a non-GM, you get more children, and you get more more children who behave differently, and then you choose one that eventually will go to.
So, to date, how many have you experimented here? You've said for this one, there are 4. Here, there are 4.
In total?
Yes.
I can
Since you
say...
started experimenting the GMOs. From cassava here.
So before we made crosses, we started off with about 25. The actual plants in which we inserted the gene, 25 only. Then from those 25, we came down to 2. Now those 2 are the ones we used to cross with these other varieties. And then we've evaluated more than 10,000 seedlings. So seedlings come from a small seed. You know, when cassava grows and produces those things, so those seeds sometimes have 3 seeds or 1 seed or 2 seeds. So you germinate them, and each of them becomes a new variety. So 10,000 new varieties, but we've evaluated them and come down to less than 10.
And now 4.
No, these are just part of them. You have some more there that are just germinating. Yeah. So these are just 4, but I think in total they're about 10. So that's my story. I will invite Dr. Kauchi to come and speak about the normal breeding pipeline. For us, we are just...
lunch.
Yeah.
I'm starting in between lunch.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which I think is fine. So, first of all, thank you for putting on your boots to come to the field. I mean, Namulonge. It was my first time to hear about this institute when I was seated there. And I was very keen to know what they do. So we thank you, first of all, for sparing time to come here. I'm Robert Kauchi. I'm putting on 2 hats. I'm putting on a hat as a Ugandan citizen who farms. I'm putting on a second hat as a scientist, which also makes me a global citizen. Because life is about stories, okay? I'm going to summarize the story for cassava in 4 minutes that are remaining between our lunch, okay? So, cassava, for about 160 years, that's when the first cassava stepped into Uganda. Because cassava is not a crop that is native here. It's a crop that is native in Latin America. So it was around 1860 that cassava came to Uganda. That was the reign of Kabaka Mutesa I Mukaabya, who wanted cassava to be grown by each homestead. The whole purpose is that when a homestead has got food, it is secure. That was the reasoning behind that, which is still the reasoning today. That when a family has got food, it is secure. So from that time then, cassava spread from Buganda to the east to the north. As of today, we can say cassava is grown on about 1.3 million hectares in aggregate.
In Uganda.
Yes. 1.3 million hectares in aggregate. And we can say that in terms of acreage, we have got farms that are half an acre to farms of cassava that are about 500 acres. Okay? And we can say that cassava is grown by youth, comprising of men and women, but also the elderly. And we can say that cassava, 80% of that cassava is utilized for either making a flour-based meal. If you are in the east or if you are in the north, it's a flour-based meal. If you are in the central and some part of the east or in the west, it is boiled or steamed cassava. So those are the major market segments for cassava. In industry, cassava has just made inroads into brewing as a beer, but also there is the inroad into making cassava as alcohol, which can serve another benefit of sanitation. Okay? So in research, it is that end users that guide the pace of research, such that we remain relevant to society. So in all this process, it has been the demands of end users that we try to address. And that means that we have platforms whereby we seek end user input or complaints, and then those form the research objectives. Gladly, science can be designed such that it can respond specifically to a problem. As an example, we can draw very nearby is when COVID came in. When COVID came in, it was science that was used to respond to the COVID problem. Either science in the form of vaccine, science in the form of precautionary measures to undertake to stop spread. So our response from society, they want cassava that tastes good. They want cassava that blends well with millet. They want cassava that when steamed, it takes a very short time to steam. They want cassava that when they harvest, it is profitable. They want cassava that when it is so dry, the crop can survive the drought. Okay? So using those inputs, we come this way and then try to design a product that can respond to that need. To design this product, it means tapping into different disciplines. And the disciplines that we utilize here, we utilize disciplines in agronomy, disciplines in physiology, discipline in mathematics, disciplines in sociology, disciplines in gender, disciplines in economics, disciplines in breeding, disciplines in biochemistry. And also disciplines in communication. Okay? So it is that team that comes and tries to design a product that is responsive to the society needs. As of now, we can say that as NaCRRI, we have released about 21 cassava varieties. And when you move in any market, on the roadside, in urban areas, you will for sure see cassava, isn't it? Either fresh or processed. And any Ugandan citizen, within his limits, can purchase the cassava. Okay? That for me, I want Jabisi. Give me for I can afford only 2,000. Then he goes that way. Okay? So our task is to ensure that all those end users meet their, okay, within their realities, they still have life. Okay? Mindful that people have got different realities, and also mindful that industry also has got its needs. So that's what we want to do now. As a way forward, we still have a task to ensure that end users, these are farmers, these are processors, these are industries, have cassava that does the following. One, cassava that offers price benefit. Cassava that offers a social benefit. Cassava that reduces risk. Cassava that is profitable in whatever ways they are doing. And what we try to do as NaCRRI is that we are very careful in our work, such that when we release a variety, we want that variety to do the following. We want that variety to be approved by society, because we're not there, okay? But people should say, I think that NaCRRI cassava is good. That is approval. When you approve, you tell him he approves, it spreads. The second thing is that we want our cassava to cause enthusiasm within society. When you're on the well, when you're going to collect water, when you're in the church, okay? When you're in the mosque, when you're in the market, you're talking about our cassava. But the NaCRRI cassava is very good. So we want to have this cassava that is credible. When we say cassava is coming from NaCRRI, it is credible because of the process and the controls that have been made. So that assurance is what we strive on our end to do. I want to end there, and thank you for sparing time. Thank you. I want to block now, to unblock the lunch.
Thank you.
Because I've been the block between now and lunch.
And
Yeah.
there's a lot of many other fields that if you're interested in seeing,